What's up, everybody? Tom Pelissero here with Judd Zulgad on Wednesday. Vikings back to work, Judd. Once again, they continue to be one of the healthiest teams in the NFL. Or rather, Adrian Peterson sitting out today with that sore ankle, just resting it up a little bit, but he should be fine for Sunday. Mr. L. Raymond, who's missed several games now, he's back out there as well, at least running around. I don't actually expect him to be back until after the Tampa Bay game and when they go out to Seattle. But overall, they're pretty healthy, and the one injury issue that continues to come up and continues to be a storyline is Jerome Simpson, and an issue that Leslie Frazier has said is related to Jerome Simpson's back. I've been told it's believed to be a disc issue. Simpson, though, keeps saying, it's my leg. They're doing treatment on my leg. It's not the back. There's a lot of strange things going on here, but the one thing we know for certain, because he confirmed it today, one big reason Jerome Simpson wants to be back on the field is because he's losing money every time he's not.
And it didn't take a rocket scientist, Tom, to figure out the fact that a guy who was suspended for the first 3 games by the league and lost a substantial amount of money right then and there is also not going to be happy to be losing, what, $59,000 plus per game when he does not play. And what's interesting about this whole thing is this. Jerome Simpson supposedly wakes up on October 7th, which is the day of the Tennessee game,
right,
and he's having some problems with his leg. He tries to play. I think, in retrospect now, I wonder if he convinced the Vikings he could play, because there's $59,000 right there that he made, despite the fact he was targeted 3 times and didn't catch one pass.
Played 20-odd snaps.
Right. So then on Sunday against Washington, he doesn't play. Probably a smart move. And what happens? But Jerome Simpson on Monday comes back and says, I could have played. Well, in his mind, he could have played. But let's be honest. When's the last time you heard a story about a guy having a problem with his leg that wasn't related to his back and ultimately didn't end up needing surgery?
And he still had weakness a week and a half later.
Right. So the thing with Jerome Simpson is, unlike the Percy Harvin thing, Jerome Simpson doesn't need to come out and tell you why he's unhappy. You know why he's unhappy, but that doesn't mean the Minnesota Vikings are making a mistake by sitting him out until they feel he can actually contribute.
And I've gotten some questions about this, so I'll just go ahead and explain it in the video. Jed, I know you already know this, but the reason that Simpson loses this money is because the Vikings structured his contract like they do with a lot of guys, as sort of a prove-it type of a deal. So his base salary is only $800,000. Only $800,000. For us, that'd be a little bit of money, but in the NFL, that's around the veteran minimum. $950,000 tied up in per-game roster bonuses. So that's divided by 16. You get $59,000 a week for each game that you're on the active roster. So Simpson continues to get his base salary checks, but that's actually less than the roster bonus he would make. Yep. He would lose, when you also include the fact that he lost 3 in-game roster bonuses and 3 game checks while he was suspended, he's already lost about, he was always going to lose it, but around $400,000. Every week now that he's not active, he loses another $60,000. That's a lot of money to be taken out of somebody's pocket. It's not as though he's making $7 million, he's losing $60,000. This is half his money, over half his money is tied up in these roster bonuses.
And keep in mind too, Jerome Simpson, if you look statistically, his time with the Bengals had a nice year last year, right? Jerome Simpson, if he doesn't get in trouble, is either re-signed to a long-term deal by the Bengals or gets a long-term deal somewhere else.
He's gotten better every year that he's been in the league.
But he gets in trouble last year, so what happens?
Right.
He gets a 1-year prove-it deal.
And it took him a month and a half to sit out there on the free agent market and get nothing.
All right, so at the rate Jerome Simpson's going, let's play this out, worst-case scenario. Let's say he needs surgery. Let's say he played the game against Detroit, maybe plays 1 or 2 more games, isn't that good, and needs surgery, and is out for a lengthy time. You know what's going to happen? He's back on a 1-year deal next year. Like I said, unlike the whole Harvin thing, which left us scratching our heads and we said, what's wrong with Percy? Why is he upset? This one's easy to figure out. It's all about money for Jerome Simpson, and he's losing it.
Certainly it helps the Vikings put Jerome Simpson out there if he's going to be healthy and be the type of vertical factor that he can be. But the issue becomes, if he's not pushing off, if you're seeing things to make you believe he's not going to be as explosive, not just down the field, but after the catch. That was one thing Leslie Frazier brought up today, was you wonder about the elusiveness and what happens after he catches the football. Is he going to come down and be able to make a cut, or is he not going to be able to move once he comes down? If he's having trouble pushing off one way, that's a big thing, and that's something that teams can game plan for, too. Play him coverage to the opposite side of where they think he has the issue.
And I'm all for decoys, as you know. I'm all for putting a guy out there if he can be a decoy. But we saw him against the Titans, Tom. He was ineffective. I mean, if that's the Jerome Simpson that the Vikings are going to get, then they did the exact right thing to sit him out. And don't think for one second that Les Frazier is sitting there saying, boy, I don't know if I'm going to play Jerome Simpson or not. He's getting advice from the medical staff, and if this indeed is a back problem, then Les Frazier is basically being told, hey, here's what the guy can give you. It's not much. Play him at your own risk. And so I don't think this is Les Frazier saying, well, he might help us. I think this is Les Frazier being told, at least last Sunday, he's not going to help you if he plays.
That's exactly it. If they think that the guy can help him, he'd be out there. Do you remember in 2004, Randy Moss suited up for a game where he had a strained hamstring?
Yep.
Didn't practice the entire week. They suited him up. I think he played 9 snaps. Could barely run out there. Simpson isn't to that degree, but you talk about decoys and the value of having someone up just for that. The moment the other team figures out you can't run and you're not yourself, you're not the factor. It's not as though they go through the whole game, look back at the tape, and go, oh, he couldn't run at all. Simpson's moving better than that. We watched him out there in practice today. He looks like he's running, cutting, doing some of those things, but during warm-ups for an NFL practice, you're not going a whole lot above 75% tops. You got to figure out what that top end is, and for a speed receiver, an outside guy who relies on his legs more than anything, and his jumping ability too. Does he have the explosion to get off the ground? Those are all things you got to be able to figure out before you're willing to put him out there.
And the best part, Jerome Simpson, Mr. After the first 3 games, I'm back. I'm the happiest guy on the face of the earth. Jerome Simpson is another wide receiver because he's been petulant and he's not happy. They are the moodiest bunch of individuals. The wide receiver position might be the most predictable group of human beings in the history of the earth. They're all alike when things go wrong. Almost all of them are exactly alike. And Jerome Simpson now is pouting and he's not happy.
And one other thing, too, that's worth mentioning is a lot of people look at some of the deals the Vikings signed with some of these one-year deals and say, why are you taking chances on Jerome Simpson? Why are you taking chances on a Jeff Schwartz? Jeff Schwartz has per-game roster bonuses, too. Guys who have been nicked up are going to have those sorts of clauses within their deals. It's smart dealings on the part of Rob Brzezinski to bring guys in and say, yeah, if you earn it, Aaron Henderson's the same thing. If you earn it and if you're up on the 53 or up on the 46 rather each week, you're going to get your money. And if you're not, we're going to save a little bit. We're willing to put out there the high end for you. We're going to build in some protection too. And whenever they do a Percy Harvin long-term deal, which I think is getting more likely by the week, that deal is also going to have some of those sorts of gadgets built in. You're still going to have to give them a ton in guarantees.
Correct.
But you're going to build in some sort of protection for yourself if things don't go a certain way, for one thing from an injury standpoint.
And this was, Tom, this was the perfect year for the Vikings to give Jerome Simpson, Schwartz, guys contracts like that because the team was rebuilding, right? So, I mean, if you're ever going to do that, if you're ever going to take a chance on a guy, see what he's got, this was the perfect year. Jerome Simpson, though, stands to be back on a one-year deal somewhere next year, and it might not be here at the rate things are going.
You know the one guy who didn't have a lot of performance-based things built into his deal?
Who's that?
John Carlson had basically all the money guaranteed for the season. $9.1 million in guarantees.
Well, we're going to do a video on that if this keeps up in December. That's going to be very interesting.
I'll say this. It's 6 games into a 5-year contract that, in essence, is a 2-year, $11 million deal. He's got another year and a half to show whether or not he's going to be worth it.
We're going to have an interesting discussion point in December if this keeps up.
Brett Ellison's looked good. Brett Ellison at least catches the ball and gets the
guy
south.
One day the guy gets drafted and he's crying in his boat, and the next he's contributing to the Vikings.
He catches the ball and he gets down the field. John Carlson spinning the wheels. He's Judd. I'm Tom. Full Vikings coverage at 1500ESPN.com. We will see you.